I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm a fuck with the ball, yeah. I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm on fuck with the ball. Let me tell you how I know. I had to get up off the floor. I had to get it out the mud. I had to finally let it go. I know my mama told me so, but she could never really know that when a boy was getting older, that his mind was getting sober, yeah. But I'm getting closer now. I had a church, but I closed it down. Had to reverse the emotions. I had to apologize. Selling eternity, willing to die. I was just living a lie. Walking by faith and ignoring the sight. Better off rolling the dice. And what I'm saying
in Sunday school, we learned the infamous narrative of Samson and Delilah. However, most of us tend to remember more about Samson's mistake than we recall about Samson's actual life. If you really unpack Samson's story, you find an amazing story of greatness and grittiness, of choice and consequence, and finally of grace and redemption. Come on, let's look at it. I have nothing to preach if I can't push your minds to think. Normally, when we consider Samson, we imagine some strong Herculean figure with rippling muscles and long hair, but the Bible indicates that Samson's strength was supernatural, shocking, and secretive. All right, now, supernatural, shocking, and secretive. In essence, people were shocked by his strength. They were constantly trying to figure out the secret of his success. Now, if he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that, nobody would be trying to guess his secret. If the brother looked like The Rock, you wouldn't be trying to figure out why he's so strong. You understand? Which means, here's my big point, he doesn't look strong, he just is. All right now, I'm preaching now. Every time Samson would use this supernatural physical strength, the text would predicate it with, the Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power. See, he didn't have to look like much. He didn't have to possess any physical capability of his own. The only thing he needed was some power. Go ahead and lean on somebody and say, you need some power. Go ahead now. Woo, see, this is crazy. You've been praying, Lord.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. I don't know if y'all can hear me, and I see I just froze up a little bit. I hope y'all can hear me. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear me and everything okay. Let me full screen this, Biggie size this. Man, that boy was preaching, wasn't he? That was way, way, way back in the day. Probably about, I think this had to be about 2 years before I completely deconverted. Awesome, loud and clear, beautiful. Well, happy Saturday, everybody. I normally don't jump in on lives on Saturdays unless it's something small, and so this one is small. It'll be a little quick chat, but I thought it was an important one. Many of you know that I'm currently on sabbatical from the Discord, but I still pop in and just kind of peruse over what the conversations that people are having and just making sure the conversations are on track. And lately, they've just been phenomenal. People have been in there engaging with each other, building conversations, answering questions, asking questions, exploring theories. So it's really beautiful. And so this morning, there was a conversation. Do I got any announcements? Let me throw this announcement at y'all really quick. All access event for my patrons. I should have uploaded the thing, but for my patrons, for my YouTube members, for my window shoppers and all of our BC 101 grads, we're doing an all access event with me on June where you can ask your questions, do your dance, all that stuff. We're going to talk. We're going to have a good time. I'm going to share a lot of information with you, and we're going to have some. We're going to get some information from you, or ask, take your questions, all that good stuff. So that's all access event that's coming up on June 20th. I've already announced it in the Patreon. I think I've announced it on the YouTube platform. Window shoppers, you're finding out about it now, and we'll send you out an email. Patrons and everybody that I just put in that list, you will get a code to get access to it. Anybody who's not one of those things and you're like, I don't want to be a patron, I don't want to be a window shopper, I don't want to take a course, fine. The tickets are available on Window Shop as well. So yes, and tomorrow, y'all saw the graphic. Tomorrow, I'm going to have Kyle Butler and Derek Day for one hell of a conversation talking about how we change the world. And this is us having this conversation from the perspective of former pastors, former preachers. And so this is going to be a really good one. So if you don't have anything going on at noon tomorrow, join us. All right, so let's jump into this. Pretty much every morning I kind of have a routine. I get up, come to my desk, and get my work started. Today is Saturday, so I'm not necessarily working on scripting today. But because I have this conversation coming up tomorrow, I'll be working out getting resources over to my two co-hosts tomorrow. But I do, after I kind of plan my day, I try to go through my emails, try to go through as many messages as I can go through, and then try to peruse through the Discord. Now, at this moment, again, I kind of remind people that it's not just that our channel grew; it's that our channel grew fast, and it you know, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but fortunately, I guess, because I've kind of modeled myself as a man on a mission, the channel hasn't just grown, you know, with subscribers, but it's actually, this community has grown with people who are genuinely interested in connecting in some type of way. And at this moment, I am completely overwhelmed with emails, text messages, Facebook messages, LinkedIn messages. Like it's bananas right now, and my life just really doesn't have the structure for it. So I'm pacing as much as I can, but I do try to read through the conversations in the Discord, and that's for two reasons. Number one, to make sure that those conversations are safe, sound, secure, and all that good stuff. But then also, number two, to see what people are really interested in, what people are really talking about. And so I wanted to address this one because this is a question that I get the most. I get this question the most. And I ain't said nothing to y'all in the chat. I see y'all. What's up, Charles? Chip? What's up, man? I see y'all. What is that? Is that? Dark Stripe Queen. I like it. I like it. I like it. Hello. And someone asked, was that me in the earlier video? Yes, it was. That was me, big and all. I'll let y'all hear the rest of it later. But all right, so let's jump in this. The question is, or the thought is, so I am currently in a discussion with a Christian who just made the arguments that none of the churches received the true Holy Spirit, and that is why there are 50,000 denominations. I'm going to be very honest with you. The moment that statement was made, that would have been the end of the conversation for me. And I'm gonna explain why through this dialogue. But this person said three words that they couldn't define. I promise you, if you would have at the end of that sentence said, okay, define true, define holy, and define spirit. Now, how are you making such a definitive statement using words that you cannot define? You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm currently in a discussion with the Christian who just made the arguments that none of the churches receive the true Holy Spirit, and that is why there are 50,000 denominations. I brought up the fact that, well, how do you know yours is true? And that's a legitimate question. How do you know yours is true? But that's a question that we also know that there's no answer to, because they've already demonstrated in the first part of the conversation that they don't know what the fuck true means. You know, and I think this is probably one of the things that I try to remind. You're having a conversation with somebody who completely defines truth in a way that you do not. You know, that's fruitless. Why are you doing this? This is vain at that moment. Vanity of vanities. Don't do that. Okay. All right. So let's read some more. I brought up the fact that how do you know yours is true? Valid question. He claimed to receive the Holy Spirit and that their traditions and rituals are not in line with the Bible. Okay. So he said he disagreed with this, obviously, and asked, do you have a tradition that you practice? I want to help you here. The thing that you disagreed with is obviously bullshit. Okay. The mistake you made is you kept stepping in it. All right. I don't know why so many people in the skeptical community are so fond of playing in bullshit. Like, I don't understand that. This person is demonstrating to you that that's not how they think, and it seems like that they're not willing to open their mind to reason, because for them, reason might be viewed as demonic. You know? All right. And I don't know if y'all have gone through the Mind Change series that my wife and I did together, but we talk about how sometimes you can be creating more trauma for that person because at the end of the day, all right, I'm gonna help you. We say, I'm doing this to help you. And that's not what we're really doing. We're not doing this to help them. You know, we're doing it because we think what they believe is stupid. You know, so when we ask ourselves, how do I help somebody? That question should be followed up with, how do they want help? You know, because forcing help on people is likely not a great strategy. It's likely not a great strategy, but we're going to keep on. So he responded to that. He responded that he does communion. I said, how do you know communion is true? See, again, you're putting yourself right back into the circular bullshit because you're refusing to acknowledge and respect that he defines true different than you. All right. And this is why, I rarely answer these questions because people don't like my response to it. And I try to remind people, you're absolutely being disrespectful to other people when you're going to them, trying to force them to believe what you believe. At that moment, you're being like an evangelical. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I hate to use this term, that's like reverse Christianity. It's like you're trying to convert them, you know? And that's where the problem comes in. You know, if you really want to help somebody, ask them, where do they need help at? And that's how quick you will find out that your interest wasn't really in helping, but that you currently have an infatuation with the topic and you want other people to see it the same way. And the one thing that I continue to caution us against just as humanity is to be very careful about this march towards sameness, you know? And so when it comes to helping people deconstruct, number one, make sure it's somebody who actually wants to deconstruct. Make sure it's actually somebody who's actually open to deconstruction. Make sure that it's somebody who's actually open to believing that, hey, there might be something wrong with my belief. Otherwise, you're not actually helping them. You're bringing trauma into their life, and that is going to make them more defensive. And that's unnecessary because you're not going to win them, and you're going to aggravate the fuck out of yourself, and you're likely going to become a cynic towards other people, and you're going to end up, listen, this is why I do encourage some of y'all need to pull out of this space at times, man, because now you think everybody you meet in real life are the people you see on social media. And it's like, no, y'all hear me say this all the time. Nobody owes you their existence, even the people who believe bullshit. They don't owe you to stop believing bullshit. They need to have a reason that it is important to them to stop believing bullshit. And if you really care about them, if you're really trying to help, that's what you'd be looking for. Not what's wrong with the theology, not what's wrong with the doctrine, not what makes you special, because all of that, you're not arguing anything substantial. You're only going to be arguing bullshit. And so, like, the information that I share on my channel is not to give you tools to go out and use against other people. No. It's to give you resources to understand this process. And if there are people out there who want to deconstruct, then you have the tools to have the conversation from them. Don't skip over the people who are looking for it to throw it on the people who are not. You know, that's playing the game backwards. There are countless people out here who are seriously interested in pursuing some type of truth. Have the conversations with those people, you know. I think it was Simon Sinek. Sinek, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he had a approach that was early adopters only, you know, and that basically means, you know, in business it was just kind of a thing like, if they don't get it, they don't get it. You don't have to hate them for not getting it, and nor do you have to try to convince them to get it. And that's actually a strategy I use in my life. Like, if you don't get me within the first 5 minutes, I'm not going to spend the next 30 minutes trying to make you get me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to be like, oh, you just one of those people who don't get me, so you're a bad person. Then I'm like, it didn't click for them. Maybe later. Simple as that, you know? And so a lot of times I think that's how we need to embrace many of our conversations with people, all right? You're having a conversation with somebody, this religion thing comes up. You're having a conversation. If 5 minutes into the conversation you can't find any middle ground, there is no conversation. At this moment, it's a competition. And that's pointless, you know? Like there are no victories out of that. You get nothing. You know, that's really weird to get your jollies off of. You know what I'm saying? So no, if they don't get it, then move on. Simple as that. And know that that's a respect thing. That is a respect thing. We have to balance. We have to balance knowing that what they believe is bullshit, while also knowing that that's still a fucking human being. And as long as they're not trying to push the bullshit on me, as long as they're not actively out there involved in something, then no, I don't. And even then, if that was the case, me talking to them wasn't going to do shit. You see what I'm saying? No, I'm looking for the strategy that's going to get me the results that actually make a difference. All right, so let's finish it up. He said, the last question, I said, how do you know communion is true? He said, because he received the Holy Spirit and read the Bible and prayed. Yes, that's what he's going to say. I get it. He started off with saying, no, we don't do it the way that everybody else does it. And then he says, well, how do you know yours right? Well, we have a ritual where we receive the Holy Spirit. And then he says, well, how do you know that's right? Well, we read the Bible and pray like everybody else. And it's just like, man. But I'm like, but honestly, I'm telling you, anybody who's doing this, you're doing this to yourself. You know? And you have to be honest enough with yourself to say at that moment, you're not doing it for them. You know, you have to stop using other people as target practice for you. You know, if they're not willing to spar with you, and honestly, like, if you're going to intellectually spar, why are you intellectually sparring with people who believe in bullshit? Let's go intellectually spar on some things that matter, on some things that will help, on some things that will make a difference. I know y'all have seen my videos, which is why I always, like, I ain't gonna lie, I always think, every time somebody, asks me about things like that, about how do you deal with people who don't believe, I don't, not on that, not on their belief. Now, if they come to me and they say, hey, Darante, I was reading something that didn't make sense to me. You know what I'm saying? And I know you're an atheist. I'm not ready to go there yet, but can you share your perspective on this with me? Oh man, I'm going to have that conversation. And I'm not going to try to use that conversation to deconvert them in that moment, but I'm not going to hold anything back about my understanding and my perspective either. But at that moment, it's done in a way where they're not seeing me as trying to push something on them or take something from them. And that's what I caution people on. You have to be very careful, because many people have a strong mental, emotional attachment to this idea of God that has been a safety blanket for them. And until they're ready to let that blanket go, if you come and recklessly snatch it away, you're going to fuck up their life and not give a damn. And that's why I say most people who are doing this, you don't really care about those people. You don't care about that person that after they say, you know what, you right, all of this is bullshit, and now their family's kicking them out the house, and you ain't got nowhere for them to go. Now, because they're loud and proud, they can't get a job, and you don't have a business to employ them. So, I caution us to like, there was a book I was thinking about writing, literally called How to Help, because so many times we use that terminology, and I'm like, man, I don't know if what you're trying to do is help. I think what you're trying to do is win. You got to be very careful. Like, we don't need to become atheist colonizers, y'all. And that's what scares me sometimes. Sometimes when I hear the language, that's what scares me. And this is why I remind people, like, oh no, I'm a humanist, man. I want the best for everybody. I told y'all, like, my transition into humanism was Pan-Africanism. For me, Pan-Africanism was black people everywhere. I care about them, man. Black people in America, in the U.S., black people in Mexico, black people in South America, black people in Nigeria, black people in Ghana, black people in Australia, black people in the Philippines, wherever black people were, cared about them. My wife and I built a Pan-African school that we ran for 3 years out of our home. On one side of our house, we had a family that were from Mexico. Another side of our house, white family. We all pour together. You know what I'm saying? And my kids played with their kids, and their kids played with our kids, and we all ate and stuff and did all that. And then I realized, man, I built this school because I didn't want my kids or anybody like my kids ever having an education that also deprived them of cultural relevance. And then I realized I wouldn't want any child deprived of that. I wouldn't want any child deprived of an education that takes from them, I don't want any child deprived of their cultural relevance mixed with the education, so that they can really learn to appreciate themselves, know their story, honor their story all the way around. That's my transition into humanism. And so, you don't want to take me backwards. All right, you don't want to take me backwards. No, humanist is where I want to be. And so I feel like we have to get there. Are there some people who believe some crazy things out there? Absolutely. But to be shocked every time we see that is us being disingenuous and acting superstitious. Guess what? Just because you became an atheist doesn't mean the world changed overnight. So here's a news flash to everybody. There are still people out there, lots of them, who believe in fairy tales. Get used to it until that's not the case anymore. And if you really want to help, first define what help is. Sometimes I'll be confused because I'm literally every Sunday at noon sharing how to help. I've built 2 websites. There's the Bridge City website and the BC Weekends website is how to help. And what I'm learning is that most of you don't want to help. You just want to lord something over somebody. Because if you really wanted to help, what you'd be doing is finding people in your local community and building local community. That's what's going to help. That's what's going to change. Trying to force people to deconvert while not creating anything for them to plug into is not helpful. It's selfish. It's selfish. It's misery-loving company. That's what that is. That's what that is. So I want y'all to be careful about that. Okay? Two series that I'd suggest, and they're free series. I've been giving away like highly valuable information on Sundays for absolutely free. Please go back and watch that Mind Change series and Trust Issues. Because if you want people, well, number one, here's the thing. Your goal should never be to be somebody else's source of truth. Your goal, in my opinion, is to be a point of reference for other people so that they can kind of, develop their own frame of reference and find their own way to truth. So I think it's better if these are people that you care about, is to establish your relationship around principles of trust, not truth. And there's a slight difference. The difference is truth says I'm right. Okay? Trust says I'm here for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the difference you want to have. So if it's a Christian you love, then focus on the things that your relationship centers around, that you actually have some alignment on. Don't spend your time trying to attack their faith. You're not going to get that. You're not going to preserve that relationship. And if you're saying, well, I just don't want to be in a relationship with people who have that faith, then don't be in a relationship. You don't have to attack them. You can just let them know, hey, I don't believe that. I think that belief is harmful. And so if you're going to be attached to that, I'm not going to be able to be in a relationship with you. That's fine. It's extreme for some people, but to me that's fine. And so it just ends with, I think he just completely missing my point. What else can I do to help this guy understand? Please, it's so frustrating. Well, I want to be honest with you. You're being just as ununderstanding as he is, because this dude demonstrated that understanding is not what he's after in the first sentence, and you stayed in the conversation. So you're not trying to help him understand. You're trying to force him to change his mind, and that's not how mind change works. Okay? People change their minds, from my perspective, on a spectrum of safety. Okay? When it comes to belief, this idea is either no longer safe for me, or this other idea is more safe for me. That's how people change their minds. A person who believes that a man raised himself from the dead and was witnessed by 500 people and walked around and there was an earthquake and this dude walked on, a person that believes all of those things with their whole heart, never required any reason or evidence to believe that. That's what you're ignoring when you're trying to have a conversation with them that is based on reason or evidence. That's not what they used. That's not what they used to get there. So that's not going to, in most cases, it's not going to take them down. It's not going to bring them back. You know, imagine if that was the case, the majority of people's belief would have fractured in 6th grade science. That's not how it works, you know? And the thing is, I'm not sure that when we're doing stuff like that, that we're doing it because we actually want to help. You know, because there's a lot of ways to help. And I can almost guarantee you, if you would have asked that Christian, how can I help you today? Deconvert me wouldn't have been the answer. You know? And so this idea of that we're going to be able to just say the right thing and all of a sudden somebody's going to be like, oh shit, everything I believe is bullshit. That's superstition, man. That's superstition. And you're setting yourself up for failure. So please don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. What you want to do is to do the work that you haven't done and build communities. Okay? You want people to deconvert, it needs to be safe for them to do so. And right now, it's not. You know, it's not safe for a lot of people to deconvert. It's not safe for a lot of people to deconstruct. This is why I spend my Sundays having the type of conversations that I have, because I'm doing my best to try to help us get some type of mental sanity back, some peace of mind, somewhat that we can feel good about being ourselves, because I see so many people who seem to be just torn down and broken apart, and just every day it's just like life is killing them. And it might be. But I tell you this, if I'm sitting on the other side and I'm thinking, I think I might want to be an atheist, and I see that, I'm like, shit, did all of them lose their family? Oh, damn. That's lonely, And of course, we know everybody didn't. Everybody didn't. Some people still got their families. And we need to tell those stories. We got to find a healthier way to approach people. Let them invite you into the conversation. What is the word? There's a word that it's not loitering. Proselytizing. Let's not become proselytes. The one question that I will never answer when people send me is, what's a good one I can use on Christians? And I'm like, what? Out of everything that you hear me say, that's what you take away. How can I beat Christians? Oh, man, it's so deeper than that, y'all. It is so much deeper than that. Oh, man. You want to, maybe for people like this who, you're in a conversation with, and like I said, if it's just some random Christian, then I'm going to be honest, I kind of consider that out of whack anyway, unless you can have there has to be some utility to the conversation. And I don't know, street epistemologists, they seem to do a decent job at it. Right, yeah. Atheists for Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Jehovah atheists. Like, we don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be knocking on people's doors, saying, hey, let me tell you 10 reasons why your Lord and Savior is bullshit. I think that'll make a funny show. Like, I think that would make one hell of a show. Maybe we can get Ashton Kutcher to be the host. I don't know. I think he's been canceled. I don't know. I don't know who's been canceled. I don't keep up with that list. But, we got to be careful with it. And even I want to be careful because I don't want to say that, hey, don't have these conversations with Christians. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying is make sure you're prioritizing the other person's humanity when you are having the conversation. And make sure you don't forget who you're having the conversation with. Don't get 5 minutes in the conversation and be like, I can't believe you believe this. How do you not believe they believe that when you knew they was a believer when you had that was the whole point of having a conversation with them is because they were a believer. So you already knew they believed in bullshit. So stop pearl clutching. Pearl clutching. Stop pearl clutching at the bullshit that you already knew was there. That's not helping the conversation. What? You believe that? You believe that? Yes, they believe a man can walk on water. They believe he can turn bread into this. Yes, it is a whole line of bullshit that they believe. So please stop being surprised. Don't do that to yourself, because at that moment, you're not making yourself look great. Okay? That's what I do. Now that's me. Like I can be a little rough. That's right. I love that. We're all different. We're all different. You gotta I think the way that we're gonna win, and y'all know, like, I am not saying don't say the truth. I am not saying don't be hard on it. But instead of you trying to find, and this is what I say to everybody, I'm not picking on the person who asked the question. But this is what I said to everybody. Instead of you trying to find an individual Christian, especially if it's a random Christian, again, I think that's out of pocket. What do I call that? Leapfrogging. If you want to talk to Christians about their beliefs, don't skip over every Christian to go to some random Christian on the internet. At that moment, that to me, that's a little out of pocket. That shows that this might not really be about sincerity, because if this was about sincerely helping people, then I'd want to start with the people that are closest to me. So that's the stuff that I'm going to unpack. This is why, like, when people do consultations with me, it's a whole nother world, man. It's a whole nother world, because that's the stuff that we're going to unpack. And it's like, well, no, I don't do this to my family because I know they believe this and I don't want to cause any more harm in that. Then why would you go do it to a stranger? So you say, no, if I do this to my family, it's going to harm them or it's going to harm the relationship. But if it's a random stranger, I don't care. That's troll behavior at that moment, And even if you're trolling for a good reason, still trolling. Now, I'm not telling you don't troll. I'm not saying it. I troll a little bit every now and then. Actually, I used to troll the hell out of my commenters in the beginning. And for those of you who are looking for YouTube growth strategies, hey, if you're doing controversial content, troll the hell out of your trolls. It's like algorithm Hulk juice, man. Get it in there. All right, so that was free game. But nope. I personally, and again, I'm not telling anybody don't do these conversations. I say I don't think that's the best strategy. I think these conversations are always going to be pointless until both people who are having those conversations have some middle ground. And I think instead of looking for the people who are staunchly, held in their beliefs to the point of defense, what we should be looking for are the people who have questions and can't find answers. We did these billboard wars a few years ago. And I think, I hope nobody gets mad at me, but I think that was one of the reasons that I didn't become an atheist earlier, because the billboard wars ended up being almost pedantic. And it was just like, Christians got billboards everywhere, and atheists are like, well, we're going to do billboards. The problem we miss, though, is that Christian billboards aren't just providing indoctrination, which they are. They're also creating an invitation. It's a place where everybody belongs. And during those billboard wars, we didn't do that not one time. Not come here where you can come as you are. Do you have questions about God? Have you ever had? We didn't do billboards like that. We didn't do billboards that were inviting. We did billboards that were antagonistic. And it works. It creates the conversation. But it does reveal in our messaging that we've never even tried to build a place that was for everybody. We've never tried to build space that was for everybody. And that's the thing. The best thing you can do for believers is to demonstrate that you made a better decision. The believers who know me right now, let me do this. How do I do it? I'm gonna exit full screen. The believers who know me right now, that's who they used to know. You know what I'm saying? That's who they used to know. 580 pounds, preaching in these big old churches, but my whole life was like falling apart. Just like, oh my goodness, it was horrible. It was falling apart. I determined when I deconverted that my life wasn't just going to be about letting go, that it was going to be about getting up, And I think, and I hate to sound like a preacher, but I mean, it is what it is. I think that's the best message I have. I think that is the best thing I can do. Shoot, the stuff that I say on YouTube, I mean, yeah, it's gold. It's gold, right? It doesn't hurt that there's a golden voice to it. But I think the fact that is backed by a life that has positively benefited from letting go of superstition, that brings, for lack of better words, social proof. And I'm giving you fucking gold right now. This might as well be a deconstruction boot camp. This is what believers have been programmed to respond to. Not evidence, not reason, social proof. In many conversations, if you pay attention, that's what those believers are going to be judging you by. Social proof. All right? And so what you care about is the accuracy of the interpretation of bullshit, which is just like, wow, don't do that. Don't do that. No. And what they care about is, does this work for you? And the truth of the matter is, atheism is not a solution, right? We all know that. Atheism is just a position of non-belief. It's not a solution. That's what I knew when I deconverted in 2014. That I could not preach atheism because it's not a solution. It's one hell of a start, God damn it, but it's not a solution. Nor is it even the point. The point isn't to have a global society of atheists. I mean, that'll be nice. I think it'll be nice. Maybe, who knows? But that's not the point. I think the moment we even kind of look at it that way, we're becoming authoritarian. We're becoming fascist, And sometimes I struggle with that. To me, it seems that all people are fascist, as long as it's their side that's doing the fascism. That's what I've seen. We'll think about that. We'll think about that. But no, you want to help. Then we have to actually think about, when you're talking to these people, ask yourself, like, think those deeper thoughts. How does this help them? Okay. So they stop believing this today. How does this help them? And then that's when you realize, like, okay, maybe my motivation here actually isn't to help. Maybe my motivation is to win. And I'm not saying that being motivated by winning is a bad thing. I'm motivated by winning. You get close enough to me, you'll hear me say that. I'm here to win. I'm not here to lose. Why would I be here to lose? Why would I be losing on purpose? I'm sorry. I stopped doing that when I got up from the fucking children's table. I'm here to win. God damn it. So no. So I'm not. I won't even say like being motivated to win is a bad thing. It's just, what are you winning? What is it that you're trying to win? Because once you can kind of hone in on that, you'll realize that like this is probably not the greatest strategy in the world. And in many cases, and y'all have heard me say this is not a secret. I've said this before. In many cases, you're really just helping to keep the bullshit alive. You know, I kind of wish, and I notice some people are going to disagree, and you can, because I'm not issuing a global decree, but I kind of wish that the Christian versus atheist debate spaces on Facebook would all just fucking disappear. Because atheists think that they are just in there killing the game. And I'm like, dude, they don't even speak the language you speak. This is why, like, you'll watch people, they'll call in on the line or something, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, man, I just owned such and such. And it's like, nah, you actually didn't. But they're incapable of seeing that. And in the same manner, likewise, we are incapable of seeing that when we say, like, no, we own them, you know, and we're incapable of seeing that they don't see that. And so, like, that's when you have to really ask the hard questions. We have to get out of this knee-jerk reactionary stuff. Ask yourself, am I? And again, when you skip over the Christians in your life to talk to random Christians, you have to really interrogate your real motive. You know? But I tell people about that with everything. That's just not with just Christianity. When people say, such and such is ruining my life, I'm like, damn. When you skip over your mama and your daddy, your grandmama and your granddaddies, your cousins, when you skip over everybody close to you to point to a complete fucking stranger, you're leapfrogging. You're scapegoating. And that's not a practice of critical inquiry. You know, you got to ask yourself the hard questions. We got to all ask ourselves the hard questions. You know? So if you ask me, what can I do to help? It's so frustrating. I'm going to tell you, build fucking community, goddammit. I've been screaming it for almost 2 years now. How many different ways do y'all want me to say it? Build community. And you don't build community by looking for people to fight. You build community by looking for people to build with. Why is everybody in the secular community more interested in talking to Christians than people in the secular community? Man. No, you got to build local community, man. You got to build local community. Online community, it's here, it's great, there's plenty of it, but everybody's running to online community as an easy way out. And this is definitely an issue that I've seen over and over again. You tell people, hey, this is what we need to be doing. They say, okay, I'm going to do something different. And then wonder why it's not getting better. Man. Right? I'd be like, hey, why are we so interested in having these conversations with believers? Now, and again, I did a whole video on this of why I don't debate Christians. It's not a good faith conversation, you know. But so many of you may be asking then, well, why do you do content then? I do the content, and actually, when you first go to my page, that's the name of the first video on there, why I do this, and I share that. It's not for Christians. It's for the people that this stuff resonates with. And sometimes those people are Christians. Sometimes those people are Christians who've just been having some inner thoughts, and they see my content, and it gives voice to those thoughts for them. And maybe they deconstruct. Some do. They message me, they email me. And to me, that's a win. I didn't force it on them, you know? I didn't put them in a situation that made them feel like it was a heated argument, you know? Like, there's not one time when I'm on the line or the hang up that I ever expect to convince one of those people that they are foolish. That's not how that works. You know, you can't convince a fool that they're a fool. That's not how that's not how it is. You just a fool. You know you in love. What you say? Hey, hey, hey. There's a lot of songs with fools in it. It takes a fool to learn that love don't love nobody. There's a lot of songs with fools in it. Why do fools fall in love? That took me back to Matilda. All right, I'm back. Sorry. I'm sorry. I had to, there's a lot of songs. But no, you can't convince a fool that they're a fool. That's not how that works. A fool has to figure that shit out on their own. You know, and I'm saying that from I was a fool, and I'm probably still a fool in some other places too. But I was a absolutely fool. You would not have been able to convince me that I was a fool. Not without sincerely caring about my safety and actually knowing my story. Now, a person who would have actually known my story and would have been sincerely concerned about my safety, they would have known the conversation to have with me to probably help me understand that, bruh, you are hurting yourself. You are harming yourself. You are risking the future of your children. You know, that person would have known what to say. But do you see how that, do you see why I say I find skipping over the people closest to you to get to strangers, I consider that to be like out of pocket because you don't know a damn thing about those strangers. You know what I'm saying? So the odds of you knowing what to say, the odds of you knowing how to help are so drastically low that you're literally at that moment just contributing to the circus. You know, it's almost making, and a lot of times what they're going to go away feeling with, like their faith just got tested and they just got rewarded by God. You're feeding them, man. Don't do that. Don't feed the bears. Don't do that. That's why no, I'm not. I was about to make a political joke, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. You know? So instead, like I said, the likelihood of you having an impact on them is so low because you don't know them. And you're actually at that moment engaging in a conversation from a completely illogical perspective. Your perspective is, if I can show them what's wrong with the belief, they'll stop believing. That means you are completely ignoring the fact that the belief was never right. They never tried to make it right. The belief for them is not about right or wrong. You know, you're ignoring all of that. And you're trying to make yourself a psychic. You're going to somebody that you don't know anything about. Like, y'all, that's not how conversations work. If you want to have a good opportunity of changing somebody's mind, you need to know a little something about their mind. No, you knowing their belief doesn't tell you anything about their belief. There are literally over 40,000 different denominations. And from a pastoral perspective, I'd say every Christian is a walking denomination of their own. So you knowing what the Bible says, are you knowing what the apologists say, or are you knowing what the atheists say, still doesn't tell you anything about what that person believes or how they came to their belief. So if you want to have a conversation with them, the conversation with them needs to start with more inquiry about them. Why do you believe? What do you believe? Don't assume that you know what somebody believes. You know? Don't assume that you know what somebody believes. You don't have to do that. If you're going to be having a conversation with a complete stranger, take the academic approach of recognizing that you're talking to a complete stranger. So just because you know what Christians believe, you actually don't know what that Christian believes, which means you can't even have a conversation about debunking what they believe until you have the conversation. So then you're gonna spend your whole time in rabbit holes, and then you'll think you got them because you'll have them on a point, And you'd be like, oh, no, I agree with that. And they'll be like, oh, okay, good, I got you. And they'll be like, no, because we don't believe that. And you'd be like, what? Because I thought Christians believe. No, we have to stop saying that. We don't know what Christians believe. There's 40,000 different denominations, man. Every Christian believes something different. You know, every Christian believes something different. There are plenty of believers out there who don't believe that Jesus was a real person, but they're still a Christian. So if you come to them and try to have a conversation with them debunking Jesus, you didn't do anything, which means ultimately we're taking these shortcuts and conversations. You're trying to take the easy way out. Please stop doing these low value conversations, especially if you're claiming you're doing it to help people. If you're doing it to help people, then do your due diligence to learn how you can help the people you're trying to help. And remember, people are individuals. And so you have to do your due diligence with that person, you know? And if you're not willing to do that, then leave those people alone. If you're not willing to learn how this belief impacts their life, how they came to this belief, what the specifics of their belief are, then you are not a good faith interlocutor. And you need to recognize that. It's easy to do. We've all done it. I still do it sometimes. But pop your hand, man. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't do the popping hand things. That still comes from hitting babies, you know. But no. Ask yourself: is it really a position? Is this really a position of concern? And is that concern for this individual person, or is that concern just for this belief? And if the concern is just for the belief, then let me make sure that I don't wrap up harming individual people into my issue with the belief. You know what I'm saying? Man, it's a beautiful day. Dragons in Genesis, Jason. So yeah, it's ask yourself, what is my concern here? If I'm concerned for the individual, then spend more time getting to know the individual. And that's what's going to give you the tools to understand how to pursue the conversation. If you're expecting to talk to a random stranger who has believed bullshit their whole life, and you're expecting to extract all that bullshit in just a 15-minute Facebook dialogue, your ego is out of this world. Like, oh my goodness. Like, are you the Christian slayer at this moment? How may I learn from you? I must sit at your feet. I will follow you. You know the way. You know, type of stuff. Like, no, don't do that. And here's the truth. If you can't do that with the people who are close to you, you damn sure ain't gonna be able to do that with people who are far off from you. You know? So, and that's really my advice with everything. Start with the people you love. And if you can't start with the people you love, there might be some more questions there. Start with the people who are close to you. And if you can't start with the people who are close to you, there might be some more questions there, Dom. You know? It's a thought. It's a thought. So if you really want to help people, you make that the focus. How do I help people? You know? How do I help people? It's not going to be easy. I tell people, we all say we want better, but we're not willing to do anything different. You don't get better if you don't do different. All right? Literally, those words are connected. The moment you say, I want better, you are simultaneously saying, I want different. And so the command to yourself must be, I have to take a different approach. I have to do something different, right? I think y'all have heard me say before, we've been around atheists, secular humanists, skeptics. We've been around for a long time. You know, we have. But it seems like we've been losing on purpose. And I don't think we need to do that anymore. I think we know what's at stake. So I think we need better strategies. And that's what I'm doing my best. Watch this. See, I think this is what I don't want y'all to misunderstand. I'm not trying to be the person who gives the better strategies. Now, I do think my strategies are golden. Oh my God. I do. I really do. But that's not the goal. The goal is to get people collaborating enough where we learn the practice of better. You know, I don't know the things I know, and I don't have the skills that I have just because I got this beautiful golden brown, skin tone. No, that's not why. That's I mean, maybe it helps, but no. No. It's been decades of community conversations, man, of community collaborations that I got from the church. And many people talk about the church as if it's some type of monolith. Like I hear the atheist community say, well, yeah, they got all this money. That's how they can do it. Do you not know that the majority of the churches that are like the most successful churches in America right now didn't exist 30 years ago, which means they have no legacy? They're not legacy institutions, which means somebody could have did this. A group of atheists could have did the same thing. They're not connected. Elevation Church ain't connected to nobody else. Life Church was connected to nobody else. And I told y'all, we being lazy. Y'all may not like it when I say it, but we being lazy. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is my diagnosis, and then I gotta go because I actually do have to get work done today. But this is my diagnosis. Most people, they leave the church, from what I've seen. I don't want to say most. Most is such a hard one, but I gotta say it for sensationalism. Most people, when they, in the West at least, when they leave atheism, they completely detach from doing anything else to help people. And the sad thing is, before that, the church was the only engine that they were a part of that was doing that. And in their mind, not doing that anymore becomes a part of the freedom. And I'm like, oh man, that's scary. That's scary. Because that's how you get where you are now. Where we're all smart. We can all tell you about the Bible and all it's bullshit. But with all of this smartness we got, we keep losing. The country. I mean, we keep losing for human rights. We keep losing for human dignity. Because our way of fighting is literally just fighting, not building. So maybe we need to spend a little bit of time in history instead of just the Bible to get an understanding that if you really want to make a change, man, you're going to have to build some stuff. Just debating people, like especially debating random folk, like, man, I get it. Sparring is fun. It's cool, but no. And if you are gonna debate random people, please don't allow yourself to get frustrated that they don't stop believing in the bullshit after that conversation. Because at that moment, you're being just as superstitious as they are. If you're going to be sparring with online randoms, you need to treat them deconverting as like the goose laying the golden egg or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Don't expect that shit to happen. If it does happen, man, go out and tell the world. But don't have that expectation. You're going to drive yourself crazy. Man. Oh, man, I love y'all. All right, that's right. None of us are omniscient. So I hope I've shared something today, man, that helps some of y'all. Being Christian and not realizing your Bible is racist. Right. Yeah. Like man, I'm guilty of this. Y'all are amazing. I know y'all. Listen, sometimes I can come off a little harsh, and I'm sure y'all are used to me by now. It's the way I talk, and it's the way that I talk to myself too. Like it's my wife will laugh at it sometimes because she'll hear me, but it's the way that I talk to myself as well. The way that I kind of process things, just to get myself to get up, and I do kind of take that approach when it comes to where I am in life. I'm very mission oriented. This is why you don't see me in a lot of spaces for a very long time. This is why I'm not as interested in getting on everybody's channel. I get a lot of interview invites, and I always feel bad when I get an interview invite because I'm like, this is probably going to be a no. Regardless of the size of the channel, because it has nothing to do with that. It's like I literally don't have the time. because of everything that I am sincerely trying to build. I think that the situation we are in is bad. You know, I think it's bad. I think the situation that we're in is not great. I don't think it's like apocalyptic, but I think it's bad. And I think that only changes when we get some people who are serious about not just being the voice, but doing the work, building out some infrastructure and experimenting. And that's one thing that I've tried to help this community get really comfortable with, is that you're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to know what to do, but you're going to have to get started. And you're going to have to give yourself the grace to mess up. You're going to have to give yourself the room to make mistakes, but you're going to have to start building community, even if it means just going to your local library every Saturday or something and just putting up a sign that says, "Local Human is here looking for people to hang out with." You got to start somewhere. You got to be willing to be embarrassed. We're building more combatants than we're building collaborators. And community isn't built on combatants. You know, we got to build community. Got to build community. You do small things, random acts of kindness. Make some business cards that just say something like, you know, "Your local humanist. I don't believe in God, but I do believe in you." And then when you go to your little local fast food restaurant, you know, pay for the person's order behind you and ask the people to put that business card in the bag. You know, because just little small stuff like that. I'm saying this is what Christians have been doing for years. And the reason they started doing that, the reason they started doing stuff like that, is because they realized they had an image problem. Okay? Around the 50s, 60s, Christianity realized that as this media explosion is happening, that Christianity has an image problem. So different people started working on it. And contrary to belief, there are no leaders of Christianity. It's a self-reproducing type of engine. There's no reason the secular community can't operate the same way, which means that out of all of us, there's not enough of us even trying randomly, just trying stuff, you know? And obviously, I lean to the negative side. There are plenty of atheist communities that are doing things. And if you know who those communities are, you know who they are. I think the ACA does, they feed the homeless in their area, you know? But we need more and more and more and more of it. More of it. We need show people how this works for you. Because again, mind change is on a safety level. Show them how non-belief has worked out better for you than belief. Now that's going to be a tricky thing to show somebody, you know, but where did you move to after non-belief? Because at the end of the day, sometimes the way they're hearing it is, you're just trying to take something from me. You got to reframe this thing, man. And if you really care about them, you reframe it in a way that matters to them. So no, I'm not trying to take this bullshit from you. I'm trying to give you your power back. I'm trying to give you your authenticity. I'm trying to show you the power of your agency, you know? And then you'll find a different approach. So my advice when it comes to trying to help Christians, actually ask the question first: how do I help you? And 9 times out of 10, the answer isn't going to be deconvert me. So that means you're not trying to help them, you know? Now, if you say, well, how do you help somebody who doesn't want the help that I'm trying to give? Well, first, you hear how that sounds, right? I'm trying to love you. Just take my love. Don't do that. It's not necessary. That is toxic at that moment. And they probably won't realize that it's toxic because they probably being just as toxic as your ass, you know? So we toxic little pigs together. But no. If it's really about help, then we have to ask those questions. And for me, taking the wide view, I think the best way that any atheist, humanist, skeptic, any person who prioritizes humanity and humans, the best way you can help believers is contributing to creating local spaces where they can have those conversations, ask those questions, where they can breathe. You know, you'd be surprised how many believers would drift to a non-religious community if one existed in their area that didn't require belief or non-belief for membership. You know what I'm saying? But you got to make it attractive. It's not just in you build it, they will come. All right. I'm going to tell you, this is why quite a few, man, I don't want to, because I'm going to end up being known for the dude who just came in the community and just said why everybody else sucked. And I don't want to do that. I'm not shitting on people. There are some organizations who've done some great work. And I think, like, I've talked about Sunday Assembly. I've talked about Oasis. I've even talked about UUs, you know. And that's it. I don't have to shit on any of them. What is it? Different strokes for different folks. And that is something, if you go back and watch the first Sunday series we did here, don't even remember the name of it, Thesis of Secular Community, that one. The first one, I talk about that. Like, I think some of us think that we need to have one institution that everything is doing. And I'm like, I've never seen that work, you know, not with the complexity of people, not without having to seriously dehumanize everybody and build things by a straight hierarchical measurement. But I think we just need to, we need to not be afraid of people doing different things. I think we need to not be afraid of that. And I think I share that sometimes with Bridge City. Sometimes I know when people see like my style, like I'm preachy, I'm charismatic. I want you to feel something. I've been like this my whole life. I want you to feel this shit, man. You know, like we're gonna go into some Dave Chappelle moments, you know, but we're gonna have some Lawrence Fishburne moments, and we're gonna have some James Earl Jones moments, and we're gonna have some Kyle Barker moments. We're gonna do it all. And for some people, that may be like, that's too much of a turnoff. And we can't be afraid. We can't be afraid of that. We can't be afraid of that, because that's why some people, even when you look at Christianity, all the churches don't look alike. Potter's House don't look like, what is it, Lakewood? Like, I don't know, you know, but no. And churches begin to understand that. Hell, even the traditional churches, they have two different services sometimes, and neither one of them look like, you know, like one of them is like a rock and roll service, and the other one is like we went all the way back into the pipe organ days. And it's like, what? And that's what I'm trying to tell the secular community. Like, hey, y'all, this shit ain't rocket science. Just do what people like. Do what people like. Why are we still being the slow ones? Let's not be slow. Let's not be slow. We can do this. I believe in y'all. You just got to believe in yourself. And that's the thing. Damn it. That's the thing. Yeah, you don't believe in God anymore, but you ain't got to the point where you believe in yourself yet either. And that's not great. That's why anytime somebody says we need people who can do this, the majority of people in the secular community say, that can't be me. Can't be me. Well, then recognize this then it won't get done. It won't get done until people start believing that they're fucking worthy of making a difference. It won't get done. You're going to let somebody be more motivated by bullshit to help the world than you can be motivated by reason to make a difference? How is that superior? How does that work? This person just needed bullshit and were willing to give their money weekly, was willing to volunteer weekly, willing to do whatever, just motivated by bullshit. And now we have reason. We have fact. We have critical inquiry. And yet can't find the motivation to build community? But it's because many of us have equated community with the bullshit. And we try to say we're doing it for secular reasons, but I'm starting to find out that we might be doing it just because we selfish and we lazy, because that's what it costs. It costs giving a little bit of yourself and doing a little bit of work. And what you find is like most people are really looking for the smallest thing they can do. And I'm like, oh, why are you playing so small? I thought when I got up from the children's table that I was going to be surrounded by adults, by people who wanted to be at the big boy table, you know, and actually solve some real problems. And honestly, after last week, I almost said, I think I'm going to be done with this community for a while. After last week. Wasn't nothing major, but it was just such a level of petty that I was just like, oh no, I can't go back to the children's table. That shit almost cost my kids their future. You know, I'm not doing that. So no, I'm not as interested in trying to change individual Christians' mind. I'm not as interested. Actually, I'm not interested at all in trying to change a Christian's mind who is not deconstructing. I'm not a proselytizer. I don't believe other people owe me their beliefs. What I am interested in are the hundreds of thousands of people across this globe who have already deconverted and have nowhere to go. What I am interested in are the hundreds of thousands of people across this globe who are crying out for community, loud and clear. And we're ignoring them to talk to the Christians. What I am interested in are the hundreds and thousands of people across this globe who maybe believe, but want a less toxic environment and would likely still hold on to Allah, but leave Islam if they had a community that showed them that there are more important things to talk about in life than bullshit, which is what I try to demonstrate every Sunday on this channel, is that Sunday churches on Sunday wasn't just about indoctrination. It was a form of education. Now, for those of people who believed it, you know, for them, this was, man, I'm getting education every Sunday, lifelong education. And those churches who were smart in the 60s, 70s, kind of led by, what was his name? Reverend Ike. I don't know if y'all remember Reverend Ike, but those churches, then they started shifting to start realizing like, oh man, these people don't care about this Bible. That's why the churches weren't growing. So they start talking about things that actually mattered. Don't let the church be more strategic than us in that regard. You know, that's what we can do. This is why I like you go into the Christian section of a bookstore. It's not books like Why Jesus is the Son of God. It's not books like Was Mary a Perpetual Virgin? It's not books like John's Greatest Revelation Yet. It's books like Living Your Best Life Now, The Battlefield of Your Mind, How to Get What You Want. These are the Christian books. You know? So a lot of things that you're arguing with Christians are things that don't even exist in their world. I tell people, most Christians are not Christians theologically. So when you're trying to talk theology to them, they're like, I don't care. Most of them are just going to automatically assume that you don't know what you're talking about because you're a non-believer. And so you don't have the secret ingredient to understand the code, man. So they're gonna be, no matter how much sense you think you make, and you make sense. Sense ain't the language they speak, But there are some out there who are hurting and who are looking for community. But it seems like the atheists only want to fight people. They don't want to help people. So we're going to skip over all the people who actually won't help. We're going to skip over all of the people who want attention. We're going to skip over all of the people who want the conversations just because we can get our rocks off of thinking that we dominated somebody else. I'd encourage us to rethink that approach. I would. You want Christians to be dominated, send them to the line. It's a good idea. But if you want Christians to be educated, then you have to make it easier for them to access that type of education in a safe environment. You can send them the links all day. It's not going to do much. I mean, for some it will. But so again, I'm not saying don't do it. Please don't ever. I mean, some stuff I have flat out said don't do. But when I say don't do it, this is a conversational tool, right? I have no authority in your life. All right. Let's all breathe and woosah in that. All right. He has no authority in my life. Okay. So when I say don't do it, please don't go out there and be like, Darante is telling us what to do. I have no authority in your life. All right. But no, if you, and I think I've repeated myself a few times here, but y'all get the point. I am passionate about this stuff. And I do want us to make a difference. And I do want, we're not all going to do the same things. We're not. And that's beautiful. But I do want to see more passionate people out here making a difference. And it's going to be out there in the streets. Like right now, I am literally considering moving, relocating, which I think I've shared, relocating, because I got to get closer to people. I got to get closer. But so no. I don't take that approach. I personally am not looking for random Christians to tell them how much bullshit their Bible is in hopes that they will see it, because that's not typically how mind change works. Instead, I'd prefer to try to build spaces if I can. I'm not going to build them by myself. I'm not going to do it by myself now. That's for damn sure. That's why every time somebody says something about Bridge City, I always have to remind them, no, you're Bridge City. You're Bridge City. So it's like, when is Bridge City going to do this? I guess when you do it. But if you don't talk to each other, it's not going to go from there. It don't exist just because I said it. You got to cooperate. You got to collaborate. That's what's so weird. The amount of superstition in the secular community is amazing to me. It is amazing. Because I'd be like, now, how did you think that was going to happen? That's funny. That's funny. But I think it's like we've hyper-focused on the Bible and forgot, which I think I've made this my message ever since I've started, that superstition isn't inherently religious. Like, religions did not make us superstitious. Okay? Because we are superstitious, we infected our religions with our superstitions. We infected our politics with our superstitions. We infected our relationships with people we care about with our superstitions. And so doing the work to deconstruct your views on the Bible is like 1% of the damn job. You now got to really focus on deconstructing everything else that comes down with it, And again, this is a little bit for everybody. I think I've kind of talked about this at levels. Everybody's not going to want to take, like a leadership approach or anything like that. And if that's you, please don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty if you're like, no, I'm not doing community, because if I do it, like if I go out there and try to launch a community, there are going to be some people fucked up. I'm just going to tell you that now. Like, damn. You got to be real with yourself. So don't feel bad if that's you. Again, I have no authority in your life. I'm literally a talking head at this moment, a person that's sharing my thoughts, which is why I always tell people, My goal is to never be anybody's source of truth. I'm simply a point of reference in a world of many points of reference. And if something I say to you resonates with you or something you can use, then you use it. And if something I say, hurts you, no harm, no foul, because you don't know me and I don't know you. So please do not expect me to know you before knowing you. Like when people comment under my stuff and they say, oh, when you said this, I got mad. I'm going to be so honest with you. As a random commenter, I don't care. Oh, and it's not like I don't care about you. I don't care about this. That's petty. Oh my God, that's petty. You expecting me to know everything about you without knowing you in order for all of my words to accommodate you, that's wild. That's madly suspicious. Oh man. Yeah, that's wildly. So again, it's not just our religious superstitions we have to unpack, y'all. We gotta get those political superstitions, those organizational superstitions. Listen, if you're not a part of the work is probably not happening. And that's something that you can probably give yourself. So if you're not a part of the work is probably not happening. Where does the work start at? Now, from a Brit City perspective, and y'all know, because I've been trying to make it clear, man. I don't know if I'm not good at communicating or what. But y'all do know it's like 5 things that I'm working on right now, right? But as far as Brit City, there's only one way to get involved right now, and that's to talk with other people. Talk with other people, which Discord is killing it right now. As a matter of fact, this conversation has been brought to you by the Discord because this was a conversation that started in our Discord this morning. But you got to get in and you got to start having conversations with other people and seeing yourself as a community and working with others. We don't get to skip the steps. We have to do the steps. That's why I said the superstition part. We got to do the steps. We got to do the steps. And if you're ever wondering, like, man, when is this going to happen? Or when is this going to happen? If you're not a part of it, of making it happen, just go ahead and assume that it's not happening. That's the best way to live. You're not a part of, because that's what moves you from passive consumerism to active collaboration, which is where we need more people at. Everybody ain't got to be there. It'd be nice, but we do need more people there. I have and I'm gonna close right here, y'all. I have a sneaky suspicion. I can't call it a theory. I don't know if I want to call it a hypothesis yet, but I have a feeling that the damage that prolonged religious superstition has done has cost us in more ways that we really understand, and I'm talking from a sociological perspective. But I think my theory, or my thesis, if we can just create a space where at least 5% of the population who's been caught in this harmful religious ideology, where they find their sense of authenticity, autonomy, and agency. My thesis is if just 5% of the population can find that back, can get that, if we can create spaces that can contribute to that, just 5%, I think we can change the planet. I think we could. Damn, I didn't mean to use 5% because now I sound like a 5%er. And that's not what I was trying to do. I was not trying to sound like a 5%er. I was not going poor righteous teachers right here. That's not where I was flowing. I was doing some math in my head, but damn. Oh, that one snug up on me. Oh, snap. I couldn't see that. I like that swag, scientific wild ass guess. I am using that. Man. Oh, man. All right, y'all. Well, I love y'all. This has been nice. Let me get y'all a video to play out on. Since we open with some very triggering stuff from church, I won't do that. I won't do that to y'all again. For those of you who missed it, I played an old blurry video of me preaching way back in the day. Today, I think I'm gonna play, which I haven't. I don't know why. I don't even know why I chose to do this today. I did this in my last impromptu lives. Impromptu lives, you're gonna get impromptu stuff. But again, thank you all for hanging out with me today. I am gonna play a video as we close out. I do want to say a special thank you to all of my patrons, my YouTube members, window shoppers, our BC 101 graduates. Whoop whoop. We got over 50 students in the BC 101 class right now. I think the last time I checked. So man, y'all are amazing. Keep doing the work, keep building those conversations, and let's continue to build momentum around what we're doing. We're having an all access event with me coming up on June 20th, where it's going to be more webinar focused. So you'll be able to ask questions and stuff. We'll be able to chit chat and kick it. And then I actually am doing a webinar in June or July called Mind Your Life. And it's going to be good. More information to come on that soon. But here's a little bit of music, man. This is a song when we were still doing our Sunday sessions live. For those of you know, I'm still sort of on sabbatical. I know y'all like, what the fuck kind of sabbatical is this? I feel like I've seen you more since you've been on sabbatical than when you wasn't. I don't know. I just use words sometimes, you know. But anyway, I'm going to play this one out. It's a song I wrote one morning before we did Sunday sessions and end up just doing it. Audio is not going to be great, but I think y'all will get the point. Until next time, y'all, keep rising. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to, of course, it's our Sunday sessions. And of course, I'm kind of in the dark over here, but we're going to make it do what it do. I actually wasn't planning on doing a music portion today. And then, right after we kind of wrapped up our notes and everything, I came by the piano and I had this little medley, one of those things that came to mind. And I wanted to share a little bit of this with you. This one will be short. But I think it goes in line with what we're talking about today and how we're closing out this conversation. I'm going to play around with it a little bit, and we'll see. Did I freeze up on y'all? All right, here we go. I'm on the edge of something incredible, though I feel I'm running on empty. Don't feel sorry, I'm just getting started up, and I tell you I've done it on empty. I'm on the edge of something incredible, though I feel I'm running on empty. Don't feel sorry, I'm just getting started up, and I tell you I've done it on empty. I can't tell you what will work, I can't tell you what won't hurt. I can share these lessons learned from my emptiness. And I don't know what will go wrong, and I won't dwell on that for long. What I know is that I gotta keep moving, 'cause I'm on the edge of something incredible, though I feel I'm running on empty. Don't feel sorry, I'm just getting started up, and I tell you I've done it on empty. I'm on the edge of something incredible, though I feel I'm running on empty. Don't feel sorry, I'm just getting started up, and I tell you I've done it on empty. I'm on the edge of something incredible, though I feel I'm running on empty. Don't feel sorry, I'm just getting started up, and I tell you I've done it on empty. I'm on the edge of something incredible, and I feel I'm running on empty, but don't feel sorry, I'm just getting started up, and I tell you I've done it on empty. And I tell you I've done it on empty. And I tell you I'm running on empty, yeah. I'm running on empty. I hope y'all enjoyed that. Like I told you, it would be brief, but I wanted to share that, and I hope it did something for you. And I'll jump over into the other side of the studio so we can get this conversation started.